it's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of Performance Plus Rehabilitative Care, and I do hope that you have the opportunity to stop by and visit our booth, and so that we can make some connections. And it's really, as we know, all about collaboration. We heard that word often today. We heard, that it's really important to, boost our economic recovery, and I think that's why we're really all here. We really want to make this work for our city and for our community. So I just wanted to let you know that this is a very, very important month for us in the disability field, and we're actually celebrating October as a National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So I'm going to challenge you to go back to your offices and think about what you might do to celebrate the successes that people with disabilities may contribute to your workplace. I think that's really important, to really focus on this particular topic. And October 20th is a very special day as well for all of us, and that's where we're going to light it up blue and purple. So you can light up your home, you can light up your bedroom, you can wear your pajamas on your Zoom call and light up your background. and so what we really want to do is really acknowledge the great contributions that people make. So if you can light up, you'll see that downtown Ottawa will be lit up in the market. You'll see the big sign lit up purple and blue. Niagara Falls is going to be lit up. And so this is a movement that started a few years ago. And so now it's moved actually across Canada. And actually, the other provinces are kind of surpassing us. So we really, really need your help in Ontario here, and especially in Ottawa, so we can do a bang-up job. And if you want to stop into our booth and speak to Ken afterwards, we can certainly send you the sign-up sheet so that you can participate and contribute, and that your organization gets recognized for that nationwide. So I wanted to just let you know as well that at Performance Plus, this particular month resonates with us, really with our business objective. And our goal is really to continuously strive to optimize employment opportunities, to improve the lives of our job seekers, and that's our job seekers with disabilities, employers, who you are today, our team, who's here present, we have a good presence, and our community as a whole. So PPRC is a private rehabilitation company. You might think, oh, they're non-for-profit. No, we are for-profit, just like you. And we've been in existence for 28 years. So I understand the struggles, we understand business, we know what it's all about. We're in the trenches too, just like you every day. So we know what the fight for talent really is. And we want to bring you a special opportunity to tap into some talent, and as we heard this morning, some great potential. So in rehabilitation, what we do is we look at the potential, and that's what we have to work with. So we do have an employability process that we developed, and it really helps to support our job seekers, but it also helps to support you, because you might not feel comfortable hiring a person with a disability for whatever reason, and it's usually a sense of fear that we have. So if you think, oh, you might have interviewed someone, but you weren't really sure because they might have presented, maybe they came in walking with a cane, you're going, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Or maybe they came in using a wheelchair. And you're like, oh, could I actually even say, could we walk across the room and grab a coffee? That's okay, we can say those sorts of things. So what we can do is we can help you remove some of the fears, and we can work in collaboration with you. So what we really want to do is we really want to commit to that service excellence. And Derek today talked about, that commitment to your customer, right? That commitment to service excellence. And to me, that's really where the key is. And if you look around the table, and there are 4 of you at the table, at least one person at the table actually has lived disability experience. 22% of Canadians are living with disabilities. And did you know that people with disabilities in Canada, their family and their friends control 53% of the market share? Now that's a big demographic that as businesses you don't want to miss out on, right? So if you treat your customers well and they come in and they have a disability, they're going to come back and they're going to tell all their family and all their friends. And so the Brookstreet is going to get that big market share. So you have to think smart about what you're doing, and if you hire people with disabilities, they're also going to teach you about disabilities, right? You're going to feel more comfortable. We all have to start somewhere. And in the past, you might have said, I really don't know about this. But maybe if you take that opportunity to try it out, you might find that, wow, I've got exceptional talent here. People who are innovative. You heard those words today. What kind of workers are you looking for? People who can problem solve, critical thinkers. That's who you're going to get. Loyal and dependable. Motivated and engaged, right? Isn't that what we want? Those are the type of individuals we want to attract. Plus, when you hire people with disabilities within your own organization, it's going to send a message that really, truly you are inclusive, that you care and you have a representation from your community. So, we should be able to go into our bank and recognize a person with a disability, potentially. How many people have ever been to a bank and seen someone in a wheelchair? Rarely. Very small percentage of people in this room. So you really need to think differently. So we know that you're looking for the most qualified individual. And in most circumstances, people with disabilities have higher education. Some of them have double degrees. So we will help anywhere from a high school student, a university student, or it might be somebody with a PhD. And a person with a PhD may have great academic skills, but they can't sell themselves. They don't know how to present themselves to an employer. And that's why we have a great job development team here today, because they can approach you on their behalf. And they can share what talents, what are you looking for? We're going to ask you. What are your needs? What are your business needs? What is your corporate culture like? Because what we want to do is we want to match individuals to your specific needs. So if you have a job that you're looking to recruit for, you can come to us. And we will then go to our talent pool of candidates and job seekers who self-identify as living with disabilities to see if we can match that talent to your needs. So that's free for you. It doesn't cost you anything because we're funded by the Ontario government. So that's a big bonus. So we're going to save you money right off the top. We're going to get you a great candidate who's going to be motivated, reliable, and dependable at the same time. We also prepare our candidates. So when they come to us on a voluntary basis. They've self-identified, they want some help. It might be a newcomer, it might be an older worker, it could be a student. So we intersect with just about every type of population there is. So those individuals are really they're coming to us because they want to work with a professional service firm, and secondly, they want an outcome. And we saw that on the screen earlier today, right? That they want the outcome. Could you move to the next screen? The next slide? Thank you. So when we look at our process, we have an ability employment process. I use the word ability, right? So we're tapping into that potential. So we're going to look at that worker. We're going to look at his occupational profile. So there's a science to it, right? So we're going to look at what is this person looking for? What are his skills? What are his talents? What is his abilities? What is he experienced? And then we're going to be able to identify, does he need more support, or do they need more support, right? So if they do need more support, we can align the services for those supports. So it might be, somebody mentioned soft skills training. We offer them 15 hours of soft skills training, plus they have access to 142 courses online. So if they want to learn something about business ethics, they can enhance their skills, or if they want to learn more about customer service for that particular job. So the person is ready to go when we present them to you. So when we do present them to you, you know that you've got a candidate that's going to match your specific needs. Has anyone here in the room ever hired someone with a disability before? Congratulations. And I see people here in the audience that I recognize who are really inclusive employers. So what I'd just like to challenge you is to really just make hiring a person with disability business as usual, so that you can have a good representation from your community and access that wonderful talent that exists in our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. That was excellent. Helen, Hirsh, Spence. Thank you.
So can we see the first slide, please? First of all, and before I get started, I want to thank Sue Ling and Michael for bringing this panel together, because I think it's it's a very important addition to the conversation, and it's frequently overlooked. So there you go. So I wanted to have a reality check, first and foremost. And here you see the demographics of Canada in the 1960s and today. So if you aren't aware of it already, there are 2 people globally turning 65 every second. 1 in 4 Canadians will be over the age of 65 by 2026. 10,000 Americans are turning 65 every day. There's a demographic shift, but we're still living in a 20th century world when it comes to the way in which we do business, because the Retirement Act in 1932 proclaimed retirement at age 65 when the average lifespan was 62. Today, the average lifespan is between 84 and 87, and nothing has changed. We're still looking at 65. So chronological age is a terribly poor predictor of success. It's skill and it's experience that really makes the difference. Can we see the next slide, please? Here I'm showing you Ottawa, okay? And this was taken in 2016, this picture, and shows you also what Ottawa is going to look like in the 2025 and 2030s. So Ottawa's future population growth of those 55 and over will increase by 42%, and its senior population growth will have increased by 80%, and it'll exceed 21% of the total population. You can't tell that necessarily here, but just so you know, it's the, I can't see it from here, but the wiggly line, I think, is 2026, right? So you can tell how the population growth is here in Ottawa. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, because I wasn't, but Ottawa's senior cohort already comprises Canada's largest group of post-secondary degrees in the country. So these people are just going to be better educated in the future. But the real challenge is for the business community to harness the potential. And there's been so much spoken about today in every conversation. There's such intersectionality. But the reality is that we have not necessarily taken a close look at the aging community. So there's a new map of life. And what that means is that you who are in your 20s and 30s are more than likely going to work into your 70s and 80s. That's going to be the new norm. Everything's shifting. A child born today has a 50% chance of having an average lifespan of 100. And they say that the first person who's going to turn 150 has already been born. So everything is moving. Even in the traditional milestones, we're seeing how they're shifting now. How many of you have young people living at home with you still, post-university? Not many here. I don't know if that means you're all so young, or you just got lucky, I don't know. But the trend is there. So third slide, please. When do you become old? So our research, and we've been doing this for the last few years, talks about being 20 years older as being the typical age that every age designates as older. And if I ask somebody, what do you consider young? It's typically 20 years younger. But as I said before, chronological age is really insignificant, and yet we use it as the barometer of success all the time. We, as a culture, have a fear of growing old. We fear old people. And I have to say, things have been exacerbated by the pandemic, when all we've heard about and seen is poor older people who are vulnerable and who are in long-term care homes. So the 2 greatest fears of getting old are, 1, where am I going to end up? Is it going to be in some institution? And will I lose my cognitive abilities? The reality is that 2.5% of Canadians ever end up in long-term care or nursing homes. The majority never see them. And in terms of dementia, 90% of the population never has any cognitive decline, and now they're finding ways in which we can actually turn that around as well through positive thinking and mindset resetting. So the only type of diversity that continues to be overlooked is ageism. Can we have the next slide, please? 92% of global companies omit diversity of age bias. I won't ask here how many of you include it in your policies and your strategies, but it is the only one that's going to happen to all of us if, in fact, we're lucky enough to live. Anti-aging means death. And here we have such a youth-centric culture. We've been promoting everything that has to do with young people. And I want to emphasize, I spent my life with young people, and I love young people. And what we're all about is age equity. The problem is that right now, ageism is really impacting the older population, and we have a talent shortage. Older people are living longer, thanks to technology, medicine, and so on. They're going to have to work longer. They may not want to work in the same capacity. And there are tons of reasons why they are good hires, but I don't know if I have time to go into it today. So the World Health Organization put out a global report which indicates that ageism is one of the most significant health concerns this century. If you didn't know it, it was ageism, it was the United Nations International Day of Older Persons on Saturday, and this week we have an ageism awareness global conversation on Friday, because the problem is so significant. So ageism is really the reason why we don't even consider older people for a number of different jobs. But as Steve Harrington said, everybody is having to reskill every 2 years. Those of us who are older, we can reskill, we can upskill, we can unlearn, we can do whatever we want, because there's something called brain plasticity, and as I said before, our brains are still functioning, we just have a different kind of intelligence. When you combine it with the young people in your buildings, it makes for a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. So the workplace of the future, if you can move ahead, really is intergenerational, and you heard my comment before. And the reason I say that is because the research is so conclusive about the way in which the various generations complement one another. They add that diversity, and you can add race to that, you can add gender to that, any number of things. You'll get different perspectives, and that's what's making the difference. They find that when businesses hire older people, they retain more younger people. It doesn't really make sense to let that institutional memory walk out the door. There are ways in which you can retain some of your employees who think that they want to retire. The reality is they're going to have 40 years left to them for the most part, and many of them want to return to the workplace and not necessarily in the same capacity. So if you can re-engage them in different kinds of programs, then that's what you should be doing if, in fact, you're dealing with a labor shortage. So the characteristics of older adults, and I won't go into detail, but emotional regulation is more common amongst them. They are loyal and committed. They take less sick leave, if you can believe it or not. There are so many myths that are out there about older adults that are actually totally wrong. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Helen. Welcome, Joel. Joel Watson.
I'll watch the camera. You tell me when I stray.
You're straying.
I hate this. Okay, hello. I am the second last thing before the wine, so let's get to it. The reason I'm here is I'm actually an example for everybody else, because I'm the trifecta. I am a Special Forces veteran, and I'm disabled. And I have been heard the words, "We've lost him," on an emergency room table. So I know what it feels like. Being a Special Forces veteran, I refused. I did have to medically retire. So I'm only 57, I'm not yet 65, but I'm close. I retired to become a research fellow at a university and sit on some boards, and then I got talked back into coming. So I retired from Bay Street as a lawyer, I got talked back, and now I'm a stunt general counsel. So if you've got a maternity leave, or you've got an issue and you need somebody with gray hair to jump in, be your general counsel or corporate secretary, or just sort out the mess somebody got you into, I do that, and then I go back to my farm and I write a book. So that's who I am. I'm also the chapter lead for the Treble Victor group, 3V. It's a play on I came, I saw, I conquered. And we are the military mafia. We got out. We had to struggle for jobs because Canadians think we're all Rambos. I clearly am, you can see. And don't want to hire us. So those of us who got jobs in big law firms, and it was started actually by 2 bankers at the Royal Bank of Canada, we created our own network. And so what we do is we are pathfinders. We help those who are getting out, whether they're reservists or regular force, and we help them move on to their second career. So that begs next question. We're in Ottawa. Who in this room is a veteran reservist or married to a veteran reservist? 1. 2. 3. This is Ottawa, the 3rd largest military concentration in Canada. We only have 3 in the room. Can you imagine what happens when I say this in Toronto? Right? They don't know what the military is, and so they don't understand it. So then we'll move from that to the bad news. And I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier in the day, but I've picked up on some of the comments. Talent war, so on. Hard to get people. People don't want to work. They're quietly quitting, and so on. I was at a job site this morning, and they're a month behind. They haven't provided a schedule. And of course I got COVID. We can't find trades. The law firms, the Macmillan people. Can you get a corporate law clerk these days? It's like a unicorn. So what? That's the world we live in. We have to adapt and overcome. That's the bad news. You know what the good news is? Canadian Armed Forces has been doing this forever. No budgets, planes that don't fly, stuff we had to capitalize. The Americans telling us we're not so good. The Brits looking down at us. And then if we're not fighting forest fires or sandbagging or shoveling Toronto's snow, the Afghanis are shooting at us. We've done this. COVID is old news. When the long-term care facilities could not function, who did they call? So in your businesses, if you want to deal with COVID, you want to deal with any problem that you have, the untapped resources of veterans and reservists in the Canadian Armed Forces are there for you. They are not evil people. I ran the training program for Barrick Gold Corporation in one of my lives here. First, I started off to teach them how to hire veterans. We're doing that. And they said, could you do training? Sure, I could do training. 76,000 reports I had. The mine managers could not get enough veterans, but they hadn't been getting them. Why? Because, and this room is filled with HR professionals, so do not throw tomatoes at me. They never left the office. They had never been to a mine. They didn't like the looks of some of the veterans who were applying for the jobs. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about what we do. As a gold mining company, we often go to a third world country. We have to get a social license to operate there. We have to avoid getting caught with bribes. We have to then find this place, which is generally a desert or a mountain. We then have to take heavy equipment from the sea there, build roads to get there. We then have to blow shit up. We then have to bring in more big equipment and dig it up, and then we have to pull it out. Who does that sort of thing? And in some places, Barrick has its own private army because we can't trust the government. But HR in Toronto, in Brookfield Place, wouldn't hire them. HR in Elko, Nevada, wouldn't hire them because they weren't our kind of people. They didn't have backgrounds in mining. Those big mining trucks, I see there's a lot of people of a certain age here. Do you have kids? They like those big trucks, monster trucks. The Cummins diesel engine in those trucks was built for U.S. Marine naval ships. The best diesel mechanics in the world come from the United States Navy. The mining industry, we're not tapping them. I did. Because you can really get access to those people, and they're highly qualified. So there's good news here. And also realize that veterans are not a charity. The same thing is that people who've actually put in a full life's work are not a charity, and that disabled people are not a charity. They have skills, and they will make your businesses better. So, bring it on. And because I'm brief, let's go to the next slide and the last slide. It's only 2. Okay, so I also teach history on the side because you gotta have a hobby. Do you even know who these people are? Bert Hofmeister. Oh yeah, this is better. Bert Hofmeister, Major General Bert Hofmeister had, I'll stay out of the way, a mental breakdown in England during World War II as a colonel. So he had PTSD. He got over it. You can deal with these issues. He went on to become Major General Bert Hofmeister, the Mighty Maroon Machine, the best Canadian general in the Second World War, and then he went on to run this small little company called Macmillan Bloedel, Canadian International Global Conglomerate. Then there's this Pearson fellow. Prime Minister, did you know that he was a stretcher bearer in the First World War? In the Greek front? And just for those who follow these things, he was a Liberal Prime Minister. He got his start by Sir Sam Hughes, a Conservative, and R.B. Bennett. They both helped him up, and he became Prime Minister. Dixon, Chief Justice Brian Dixon. We all talk about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We love the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Chief Justice Brian Dixon is the chief interpreter of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. He was missing, he's now dead, his left leg from where my hand is down. He was blown up in friendly fire 9 days plus of D-Day. He spent the rest of his life with a prosthetic that was strapped over his shoulder. He was in pain the rest of his life. He went back and became a leading lawyer at Atkins Macaulay in Winnipeg. He then went on to the Queen's Bench, and he became one of the longest-serving Supreme Court justices Canada's ever had. And for those of you who love the Charter, he's the one, and some people don't love the Charter, that made it what it is, primarily, this man, Brian Dixon. Now, we're going to skip to the future here. Bryce Shushuk, does anybody following the whole battle about who owns Win Mobile and can buy it? Bryce Shushuk is one of the co-founders. Naval Commander. John Proctor, anybody here from Martello Technologies? The CEO of Martello Technologies just down the road. British naval aviator, not like Maverick. More like James Bond, because if you talk to John, he's very, and he served as the watch commander on the Royal Yacht before coming over and joining JTF2 in Canada. So he's a really put together guy. But he's now the CEO of Martello Technologies. I could go on. Jen Bonin, who was a naval commander, she's an engineer, was at PwC, then she was running McKinsey in Toronto. Just this week has been named the managing partner for Boston Consulting Group. Sarah McMillan was a naval lieutenant commander. She was the CEO of Federal Fleet Systems. She's now the VP HR at Babcock. It goes on and on. I will provide you the examples. We are not Rambos. God, look at me, I couldn't be. These are people who have all the skills you need, and it's not just rifles. War is sophisticated. Cyber. Geolocating. Fixing trucks, driving trucks, fixing planes. F-18s don't fly themselves. And it's not really the pilot, it's the technician on the ground. I have to tell you that. But the administration, right? It's a big organization. Payroll, administration, logistics. Tons of people, and they've been all across Canada. And you know what? You say, oh, it's COVID. I don't want to work out of my basement. I don't want to go here. Veterans and reservists do it every day. They're not going to complain that much, and they're not going to be surprised. So thank you.